Hook start. Imagine standing inside an airport terminal, looking out at the runway and Nainam, and realizing that everything beneath your feet, the runway, the terminal, the road you drove in on, is sitting on the bottom of the ocean, not near the ocean, not beside it, inside it. And right now, as you stand there, it is sinking. This is not a movie. This is a real airport handling 24 million passengers every year, built on an artificial island in the middle of Osaka Bay. And it has been slowly disappearing into the sea since the day it opened. The engineers knew, the government knew, and they built it anyway. Hook end. In 1958, a group of Japanese engineers looked at Osaka Bay and made a decision that the rest of the world called impossible. They would not build an airport near the ocean. They would build one inside it. A completely artificial island constructed from nothing, rising out of 18 meters of open sea, and on top of it, one of the most breathtaking terminal buildings ever designed. Renzo Piano's glass and steel masterpiece, stretching 1.7 kilometers from end to end, a structure so long that you cannot see one end from the other. The world called it a miracle of modern engineering. Japan called it the future. And on September 4th, 1994, Kansai International Airport opened its doors, and for one brief moment it felt like humanity had finally conquered nature itself. But beneath the celebration, beneath the glass and steel and the perfectly manicured runways, something was happening that no one wanted to talk about. The island was sinking, not slowly, not gently. It was dropping into the ocean floor at a rate that shocked the very engineers who built it. The original calculations had predicted settling. Every artificial island settles. But the models said it would stop. The models were wrong. By the time the airport opened, the island had already sunk 8.2 meters, or nearly double what was projected, and it was not stopping. Year after year, centimeter by centimeter, Kansai International Airport was being swallowed by Osaka Bay. Engineers scrambled. The terminal building, that magnificent glass structure, had been built on 900 steel columns driven deep into the island, each one independently adjustable, so that as the island sank unevenly, the columns could be raised to keep the floor level. It was a brilliant solution. It was also an admission that they had always known this would happen. Billions of yen were spent adjusting columns, reinforcing seawalls, pumping in new material to slow the descent. But the ocean does not negotiate. And then on September 4th, 2018, exactly 24 years to the day after the airport opened, Typhoon Jebi arrived, the most powerful typhoon to hit Japan in 25 years. Waves of 3.5 meters crashed over the seawalls. A 2,591-ton tanker, torn from its moorings by the storm, drifted helplessly across the bay and struck the only bridge connecting the airport to the mainland, snapping it, cutting off the island completely. Inside the terminal, floodwater poured through the ground floor. Runways were submerged. 3,000 passengers and staff were trapped on a sinking island with no way out, no power, and rising water. It took a Chinese consul official chartering private buses through a damaged bridge to evacuate the first group. The Japanese government took hours longer, and when the water finally receded and the damage was counted, the bill ran into hundreds of billions of yen. But here is what makes this story more than a disaster. Kansai Airport was not destroyed by Typhoon Jebi. It was destroyed by a decision made decades earlier, the decision to build in a place that the ocean had never agreed to give up. The engineers who raised concerns about the settlement rate in the 1960s and 1970s were told the project was too important to stop. The politicians who approved Phase 2 expansion in the 1980s, even as the sinking accelerated, were told the economic benefits were too great to walk away from. The contractors who built the seawalls knew they were designed for a storm smaller than Jebi. They built them anyway, because the specifications said so. And the specifications had been written by people who needed the numbers to work. This is sunk cost momentum in its purest form, a $20 billion island that had become too expensive, too symbolic, and too critical to Japanese aviation to ever be abandoned, no matter what the ground beneath it was doing. Today, Kansai International Airport is still operating. Over 24 million passengers pass through it every year. The columns are still being adjusted. The seawalls are being raised again. And the island is still sinking slower now, but still moving, still descending, still reminding every engineer who works there that the ocean was never conquered. It was only delayed. The same pattern that buried Denver's baggage system under $560 million of denial is here, just underwater. The same silence in the boardroom. The same reports filed and ignored. The same moment when a project becomes too big to question and too visible to stop, even when the ground beneath it is literally disappearing. This is what Causal Frontier investigates. Not the storm that broke the airport, but the decades of decisions that made sure, when the storm finally came, there was nothing left to hold.